If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Welcome to the My Name is Human podcast. We are an Earth2.io podcast brought to you by Earth2News.com. My name is Human Hazy.
And my name is Human Kangy.
And we have a repeat guest for the first time on the podcast. Welcome back, Bull Combo. Combo, how you doing today?
I am good, guys. Thank you for having me again. It's quite awesome to be back, actually. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, so what have you been up to lately in terms of content creation, Earth2, all things Bull Combo? Tell us what you've been up to.
Oh, it's been very, very busy. I was traveling in Earth 1, which adds complexity to Earth 2 things. So I've been working on a lot of new stuff, a lot of new content, some graphic design work. Also, trying to pay attention to the new spaces, things going on inside of crypto, NFTs, virtual land, etc. Always trying to watch that.
That's mainly going to be our focus of conversation today. We're going to talk a lot of blockchain, a lot of Republic real estate, and maybe get into a few interesting subtopics there at the end. But it's good that you're joining us. So Kangy, what have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. I've been sitting here kind of twiddling my thumbs, frankly waiting to see if Earth 2 is going to respond to Republic real estate. For those that may not have, caught up on the last few podcasts, we did have Jawad Khan with Republic Real Estate, and after the podcast, they reached out to me and are, at the time that we last spoke, we're trying to get in touch with folks at Earth 2. So that kind of sets the stage for what would be our first true sort of official fund that we're at least aware of getting into Earth 2 financially. So, I mean, that's, I think, really exciting. It comes with a lot of, potential other details. But I guess to start, I want to kick this over to you, Bull Combo. What are your expectations for this? What is this something that, gets you excited to potentially have a 6 or even 7-figure investment into Earth 2?
It does. It gets me very excited. I mean, I obviously have some concerns just because I see, all the requirements that Republic has when they're moving into investing in a new space. So I wonder if Earth 2 views themselves as ready for that type of attention yet. I know that the team has been hesitant to do things like marketing, etc., because they want to get the platform to a certain point. So while I do think the team hopefully will respond to Republic, and I hope that we get the best possible outcome out of it, I'm curious to see exactly what they respond with, how Republic responds to their response, and if E2 is in a position where they feel like they can take on that type of attention.
Yeah, and that's the curious point. I don't know if E2 even cares, to be honest. I think they might think they're in a position where they don't need $1 million investment, or they don't need the recognition of having a virtual land fund. Just from the general lack of response I received, I did talk to Thomas briefly, but it was like a lackadaisical. Oh yeah, that's kind of interesting. Okay. I mean, they didn't seem enthused about it, and to me, it just kind of makes me feel like they have a sense of self-importance that $1 million is nothing to them. But I don't think they understand the ramifications of having a fund like Republic Real Estate in the Earth 2 community. It's not just them. They bring money. They bring people that want to invest in Earth 2. And it would just be a widespread good thing for Earth 2. So I think if they blow them off, they're making a big mistake.
One thing that I was thinking about that I with over the last few months, let me get my tongue out of my throat here. Over the last few months, I think that the whole team plays things so close to the vest, especially Shane. Everything's so cryptic that it wouldn't shock me if at this point they're just very good at acting aloof and and seemingly not caring about these things, but for all we know, there's more going on in the background than we're actually privy to. I mean, that's obviously some sort of blind faith on my part to think that that's happening, but yeah, I can't imagine that there's a complete apathy towards a potential $1 million investment.
Yeah, but it's not just $1 million. I mean, the potential is tens of millions.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I do think that's exciting, no matter what happens, is they are potentially going to include it in their virtual real estate newsletter, as well as I think one other sort of blast that they send out to their investors. And one thing that's exciting about that is, since they have such a limited number of parties that they can actually have in the fund, they can only have 99, and it's a $100,000 cost of entry. Now, one thing that could be interesting is, if there are investors that can't meet that minimum requirement but still want to invest in virtual real estate, we may still see some new investment dollars, coming out of this discussion with Jawad. So, for me, I still think there's a ton to be excited about, regardless of how quick the official relationship is developed.
Yeah, for sure. At the same time, I do want to make sure that Earth 2 does understand, and the team does at least understand, the importance of making a connection with a company like Republic early on, because obviously it's really important to foster those kinds of relationships early on in a project to make sure that if you're not ready now, when you are ready, they're ready to step in and make some sort of investment. So.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'm curious to, for all we know, there could be, additional conversations that have happened where you say, well, we'll maybe get further along in an official partnership once our own platform is further along. But again, that's very, just like everything Earth 2, that's very speculative.
Yeah, and then we talk about what Jawad was talking about the things they look for in Earth 2, and Combo brought up a good point. Is Earth 2 at the point where they're going to be able to consider them, because they don't have all the requirements necessarily. They don't have the blockchain aspect. They don't have the DAO aspect, and we'll get into all this a little bit later. But really, right now, they're really into Decentraland because of the fact that it's DeFi. But Earth 2 doesn't have that. But I think Earth 2 is progressing that way. So I think getting in now by Republic is a smart move by them, because they can get in while the prices are still relatively low.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before. Like the cost of entry into Decentraland specifically is so much more dramatic, right? That it does, even though they're further along, that cost barrier sort of, I'm not going to say it makes that not matter, but it does. If you don't have the thousands of dollars necessary to acquire land, then what can you really do? Whereas here, at least still, if you want to own land, you can still do it for under $1 if you go to certain places. So,
yeah.
And I think that also when it comes to the other competition within the space, that, outside of Decentraland, there's not a lot of other projects that are super far along. It's not to say that there's not a sense of urgency and a need to be sort of first to market, but in terms of the other companies that Republic is investing in, I don't think that Earth 2 looks particularly novice in the whole thing and coming in really green, because I think everybody other than maybe Decentraland looks really new. But that's just me. I think that maybe if you have at this stage, if you have, a good enough staff and their LinkedIn pages don't look fake, then you might be able to get some investment dollars.
Seems like it's pretty easy to get money these days like that.
Yeah.
But it's a valid question, and I think it's really going to come down to whether or not Earth 2 offers enough for Republic to feel confident in that type of investment, and a lot probably will ride on the conversations that they might have behind the scenes. So
yeah, if they have a conversation.
If they have a conversation. And
yeah.
I mean, we know Earth 2 a lot better than, Republic, because we've been living and breathing it for the last few months. So we can say a lot more confidently it's okay to spend your money in the platform than they may feel right now. And if they don't, invest at this time, it's hard to blame them, really, because, you can understand why they wouldn't at this point. But at the same time, if they did, it wouldn't come across as too risky. So.
Yeah, no, and I think right now it would be a great time to get in because of the cost of entry. It's like, I mean, there's some plots out there that while they're expensive, relatively speaking, I think if you bought them now and looked at the price of them in 5 years, they're a good investment. And I mean, I'll just spitball, for example, the $50,000 Vatican plot that's out there. It has the Sistine Chapel. It has it has the core of the Vatican, and 50,000 is the buy now price. But relatively speaking, if you look at what some plots on Decentraland are going for, the scarcity of the Vatican and the demand for those kind of plots already, they could just pop in, put 50K down, and that would be a relative bargain.
Yeah, I mean, because I think we broke it down, the per tile cost there is like less than $100. Well, we've already seen plots sell for more than that per tile amount. And I do think, for Republic, they are aware of how new this space is and how long it may take to get returns. But I do think that there's, also a potential short-term return in the sense that there's still been so little in the way of advertising from Earth 2 that I do think that we will have a new, we will have additional waves of new buyers and new users when they put those efforts forth to try to bring those folks in. So I think it's a great time to invest if you're Republic, just because you'll be able to beat, those investors that may come in with that advertising wave.
Yeah. So Combo, if you were going to be Republic, what kind of properties would you just buy a lot of tiles and try to resell them, or would you go for the more long-term picture with something like that Vatican property?
I think I would go for the long-term picture, larger properties of significance. I think that it's pretty clear Republic has a vision for the metaverse, and they're really most interested in platforms that are trying to create that level of detail and customization. So I think the long-term play is probably what they're most interested in, and that's probably what I would be doing too. So.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got the deep enough pockets and you've got that patience.
Yep.
But I mean, I think that kind of leads us into our next topic a bit here, which is, we've already talked a little bit about, okay, how far along is Earth 2? And we've also talked about this concept of DeFi, right? How decentralized do we necessarily want this platform to be? And when we were talking to Jawad Khan, he said that, he had asked us if Earth 2 had a DAO yet. And both Hazy and I, as of this point, I mean, that hasn't been made public, but that was a question that we asked back is, do you think it's essential for Earth 2 to have a DAO in order to be taken seriously? So, I mean, Bull Combo, we've been talking to you about this before, but let's open up the discussion. What is your feeling on a DAO, and is that truly essential? Or is it just something that might be sort of a nice add-on or a nice perk for certain users?
Well, it's definitely a nice perk. Anytime that there's user control at a company decision level, that's a nice perk, I do think, for users. But the question, I think, is whether or not it makes sense in specific platforms and in specific scenarios. And while I think that it might be a requirement for something like Republic because of their mindset when they're approaching the space, I don't think it's necessarily a requirement for the success of Earth 2 as a whole. Just because I think that the DAO setup, I don't know if it's as efficient in a gaming platform, because gaming platforms have so many evolutions and so many changes. Just on like a minor level, I would be curious to see to what level of control a DAO would, give its users.
Yeah, and that's my concern, really, is that the users would take the vision away from the developers.
Well, I think one thing that would be interesting that, I mean, kind of going off of your point, Bull Combo, is, I mean, let's say when you open an MMORPG, right, there's often times where certain gear has to be nerfed or certain resource distribution has to be changed because basically over the course of a game, long enough timeline, you'll start to reveal some of those things that are just not properly balanced, that are hard to kind of determine in a vacuum while you're testing. And if every one of those tweaks is, as opposed to maybe being made, those decisions being made by a couple of people, it has to go through a true voting process.
Yep.
That's a very good point, because I think a lot of us that play video games, a patch will come up, sometimes a particularly large one that's like, I don't know, 20 gigs. And I'll just sort of mindlessly go, okay, and there's any number of things happening there.
Yes.
Well, how many of those components, if I have to vote on that, how much is that going to slow everything down, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have to make the decision in ways that would make sense, and there's so many things that could clash with each other if they're not decided properly. And that's the perfect example, is just the meta updates. Anytime there's a meta update for a game, which can sometimes be multiple times a day, that's just, I think that's a decision-making level that I'm not sure I'd want to have to make constantly every day.
Yeah. So can you break the DAO down into like maybe a more larger scope? Like, okay, so game decisions itself doesn't go through the DAO, but maybe economy decisions do. Like, if that was the case, that would be something I could live with.
Precisely. And I think that's probably the direction that both Republic is looking for Earth 2 to go, and I think that's also the direction that Earth 2 would and should go if they decide to implement something like that.
Yeah, I wonder if in that, and I'm just kind of talking out loud here, so I'll keep it brief, but if in that relationship, the Earth 2 team, as things become a bit, as it moves closer to DeFi, if the Earth 2 team moves more into sort of like a third-party role or a consultor role, as, the project is sort of, quote unquote, not really, theirs in the conventional sense as it is right now, but then they'd still have, ability to make certain decisions that are not necessarily included in the DAO. But I'm still learning about a lot of this stuff, so I could just be completely talking out of my ass here. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, so I did ask my little go-to source that I rely on often here, just to kind of, and I asked him, I said, so is the plan, because he does know about GoChain and kind of the plans, and I asked him if the plan was to go decentralized. He's like, not yet. He's like, it's too soon for that. So I don't think it's something they have planned yet, but maybe in the future.
Was there any additional, I don't know if you can share this, but was there any more said other than it's just too soon?
Keep talking.
Well, I'll say this, if you're going to say it's too soon, I guess we're not necessarily asking that person, Hazy Source, to expand on that a ton. But I do understand, just in a general sort of business sense, wanting to take things step by step. And, we're still working on even launching phase 2 and Essence and EPLs. And we have this announcement pending with GoChain, presumably, and then, possibly another company that's been, there's a lot basically going on right now. And so I think to fully charge into the decentralization component just may not be necessary right now. I think maybe the team's time may be better allocated towards the actual game development, frankly.
Right. And so I think we can get into the blockchain to the GoChain aspect without having to decentralize. And I think that step is important. And so what I asked him was, are there talks of the implementation, including decentralization? And he said talks in lots of areas, but full decentralization is too early and it wouldn't work so well, in my opinion.
Okay, so I think that you can read that as obviously not saying that it's out or that we won't move that direction, but just that it's a little premature to fully build out that vision, which I think is fair, especially if we can put ourselves, I'm using the royal we, this is not my decision, but if Shane and the gang can basically put themselves in a position to make some of those decisions later and be able to have that flexibility to go whichever route they would like to, and maybe have some variability with how far into decentralization they want to go. That's all they really need, is to be able to have those levers and make that decision later on when it's the right time.
Yeah. No, I agree there. And I think it's most important that they just work on the platform, that they work on improving what they have right now. And I mean, if they make major changes, that could become a problem, because the more complex the site and the platform is, the more they have to migrate. Should they move a decentralized route? But nevertheless, I think it's most important that they improve the platform. And I think decentralization should be a secondary priority. While still a priority, I think it's more of a long-term plan. Although I do think crypto integration should be something that they work on a little bit soon.
So how do you foresee the crypto integration working out, Combo? Like, what kind of steps do you see them taking, and how do you think it's going to work within the Earth-2 platform? Kangy and I have our ideas, and we've talked about them before, but I'm interested to hear what your views are.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense for them to go the route of having our properties generate some sort of cryptocurrency coin or some sort, but I don't know if we're actually going to see that for a little bit. And I think it depends on what this deal that they're working on in the background is, presumably with GoChain. I think after that happens, we'll probably have a better plan, or a better, clearer idea of what their plan is. But I think if they were to do it, it's going to generate it's going to be properties generating some sort of cryptocurrency. It's going to be, fingers crossed, some way to host some NFTs, because I think that would be pretty sick. And I think, quite frankly, that's the direction a lot of things are going. So I would like a crypto integration. I'd like to be able to buy land with crypto. That'd be really nice, with some sort of crypto wallet. Maybe withdrawal to that. It doesn't have to be full decentralization. It just needs to be, I think, a heavier adoption of crypto as a whole, and maybe the generation of a cryptocurrency proprietary to Earth-2.
Yeah, and do you agree with me that e-dollars needs to be separate from whatever crypto coin Earth-2 is using? They can't be one and the same.
100%. I 100% agree.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that you raised, Combo, that just having the ability to either buy land with crypto, or even a more forward thinking possibility would be to even withdraw your money in a crypto of your choice. Like, if you could withdraw your balance in Ethereum at whatever point what it is at that exchange rate, that might make people happy enough for now, while these other things are still being developed. Because I think you're right. I think that the things that we're most excited about ultimately come back to what you're able to do within the game and within the metaverse, and that those are the things that should really be focused on. And if that happens, then the rest should follow.
Yes.
And in that spirit, I think we've talked about the crypto and DeFi and decentralization components a lot. I really wanted to talk to you about what your plans are in game, or I should say in metaverse, and specifically as it relates to, let's call it, entertainment. We've talked a little bit about specifically concerts and hotels. So what are you planning, Combo?
Well, it's funny you'd actually ask that specifically, because I didn't intend on necessarily announcing anything on the podcast, but
I'm sorry. I just ruined your entire business model, and I apologize.
No.
Kangy is the crusher of dreams.
I am. I'm sorry.
You're asking the good questions. You're asking the questions that get the right answers. So, I mean, hey, you're doing what you're supposed to do. I think I am working on two different things. My main love, obviously, or secondary love for me, is music as a whole. So that is something I'm focusing on pretty strongly inside of Earth-2. And I can't give too much of the detail on it right now, but I can say that it's going to be pretty awesome. I'd like it to incorporate as many people and collaborators as possible, and it's got a pretty large vision in terms of what I think it could be long term. And hearing the way that Jawad talked about the companies that are already working to put on digital concerts, for instance, and these digital entertainment experiences, it just kind of solidifies and reinforces some of those ideas that I'd already had and that I thought might be big things. I didn't really think they'd be this big this fast, which it's kind of happening a little quicker than I thought. But nevertheless, I got some music stuff coming out. It's going to be I will say it's going to be a music related location. I can't really give much more than that, but if we have me back on in a few weeks or so, maybe I'll make the official announcement then.
Yeah. So how do you kind of see And to me, that was also an interesting experience because the pandemic has really changed the way that people live their lives, and it changes the way they experience their lives. So I think having virtual concerts or AR concerts or anything of that sort is really going to be the future of how things progress in this society. So how do you kind of see that playing out on a platform like Earth-2?
Well, I think it depends on the complexity for which we get a platform with Earth-2, what level of customization we have. But assuming we have full customization, I think that I don't think there's many limits. I think we could build out, full festival grounds. You could have experiences where you're visiting merch tents or merch tables and buying a T-shirt in virtual reality that you can try on your avatar that you then receive in the mail a week later.
Love it.
In real person. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I think that those levels of brand engagement are really what's going to drive the metaverse and the sub layers of the metaverse, because I think we just view the metaverse as this one big thing, but I think it's just going to be like the real world. There's going to be a commerce level to it. There's going to be an entertainment level, and all those things can be wrapped up into one.
And think about those little E2 advertisements we see all over the place right now as test. Think about when you have a festival, that advertisement space is going to become much more valuable.
Absolutely. And that's where that's what I mean. I think the large brands and companies like that, they see that opportunity to engage with users at a more personal level, right from their living room, giving them that level of experience that they might have only had previously by going to someplace. So I think that there's a huge level of interest there. And if you're a large company that's trying to find new ways to engage with your customers and with your consumers, then I don't see why that wouldn't be something of a heavy focus right now, especially with the pandemic just kind of pushing everything there at what seems like a breakneck speed right now.
So I know Kangy's interested in hosting live sporting events, fights. How do you kind of picture that playing out, Kangy? How will you do a live sporting event virtually?
Well, so my true dream is to host boxing events and mixed martial arts events. I've been to a few UFC events, and one thing that always stands out to me is the size of the venues that UFC events occur in. They're typically in basketball and hockey arenas, and they're usually less than 20,000 seats. And I just think about how many people are buying the pay-per-views, right? And they're in the hundreds of thousands, and sometimes even crack 1 million purchases. And for people to actually be in a venue, you run into a natural constraint of space. You can only fit so many folks in somewhere like that. And now we've got a pandemic that's, potentially complicating something like that even further. So what if you were able to sell somebody basically VR seats, like front row seats, to be able to see a title fight, as opposed to, paying $60 to watch it from your couch? You now have this immersive experience, and you have it from an angle that you would never get to see it in real life.
Yeah, love it.
I think that's one thing that really should be focused on, is the potential angles and ways to experience things that aren't currently available. Like thinking about what Combo was talking about, I've been to hundreds of concerts in my life and dozens of music festivals, but I've never been backstage, ever. And all those years, thousands of hours wasted breathing dust at music festivals, and yet never been backstage. So if somebody were able to present that opportunity, I think that would be really compelling for people.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same vision I kind of have for my project, the casino, the poker room. Playing online poker is kind of, you just stare at a screen and you just stare at usernames and little pictures, little avatars. But imagine the virtual reality experience. You're sitting across the table from that avatar, and you can watch their face, and you can see their body sweat. You can, you can just, it feels more real.
I think that's the appealing part of going to a concert, is that visceral, personal interaction that you get, the cramming of people together in one area. Everyone's hot and sweaty, and everyone's kind of lost their differences, and it's just one group, all there for one purpose. And I think that having that where you can be in that same level of world, maybe be surrounded by all these avatars of different people enjoying the same thing, I think that'll be the first time you're able to recreate that feeling in anything other than real life.
Yeah, and combining the fun of live poker with the intellectual challenge of online poker is just so appealing to me. And the same thing for a casino. You can, instead of playing virtual slots on the internet, you can actually watch the slot machine like it's like right there in front of you. Just the experience is better.
You get to take the walk to cash out, which is an exciting walk when you've won something.
Or you get to take the walk of shame when you lose all your money to me.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, they'll have to get the VR technology up so that I can smell the cigar smoke in the casino. I really want that
The
slice of
authentic
realism.
experience.
Yeah, there we go.
That's great.
But I mean, that's, I think that all of these ideas also speak to, this greater concept of all of these different ways that we can make money beyond simply owning land, or all these ways that we can engage users that is, goes beyond basically trading real estate.
Yep.
And we've seen a whole lot of we've seen a lot of content creation. We've seen a lot of individuals come up with ideas sort of around Earth 2 already. And actually, Hazy, I'm going to kick it to you to describe this a little bit. We got a friend of the show that's actually launched a new project that's kind of a service marketplace of sorts.
Yeah, so Walker, Earth2 Odyssey, he's a YouTuber. He doesn't post content as much as Meta or Combo do, but he does post every once in a while, and he's always very articulate and has very well thought out. Well, he's been spending the last couple of months kind of putting together this site, e2reviews.com. And it's basically a services marketplace for those in the Earth2 community. You can get a web designer, you can get a logo creator, you can get MySort to teach you how to flip tiles. I mean, so there's just so many different things that people are going to be able to do in Earth2. Like, for example, when they have the buildings out, I'm not a very good architect, but I can pay someone to do it.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, Combo, I know that's something that you do outside of the Earth 2 conversation. Is you're a graphic designer, right? So this is something that if you wanted to, you could utilize this from the creator end as another way to potentially make money and engage with the community yourself.
Yeah, that's very true. And I have a habit of taking on way too many projects, so I don't know that I'll be.
That's fair. I'm not signing you up for this.
Right? No, for sure. I enjoy creativity, and I think that's probably my fatal flaw there. Is I just like to make things. So I see the use in it from both sides though. So if you're planning a project that requires a lot of people, then you're going to need people with specific talents and skills. And I think having a spot to find that within the Earth 2 community is really cool, and it gives the Earth 2 community a chance to show off those talents and those skills in a different way than just showing how good they can flip a tile in Venice. So
yeah.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
Specifically taking shots at Hazy. But I mean, I think it's really cool to just see all of these, different creators and entrepreneurs building these different industries around Earth 2 that I think sort of, whether it's the intent or not, it sort of supports Earth 2 as a project, because I think it shows to other people that there's a lot of interest to see all of this other sort of third-party content and production going in around it. And I mean, we've talked about it before, it goes even to things like those that run the guilds, like people that are really putting in that time in the Discord to talk to people. I think it all feeds into this greater sort of collaborative benefit that is the community looks good from the outside, and people like we talked about Republic, they'll be able to see all of this stuff and go, okay, we've got some real community engagement here, and we've got some people that obviously believe enough in the project to continue to put their time and effort into what they're doing. So
yeah, and I think if Republic actually dug into the community, they'd see the community of Earth 2 as 100 times more involved than the community of Decentraland.
Yeah.
I can't speak to that, but I'm so busy engaged in the Earth 2 community that frankly I can't see the forest for the trees. I can't get out to even waste my time with another community because I'm so wrapped into this one. So
yeah.
Well, I've checked out Decentraland, and I can confirm that.
Well, I don't have enough money, so I'll just say that that's the reason that I'm not engaged in Decentraland, as opposed to me being broke. But yeah. That works.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a whole, and just kind of to circle back to Earth 2 Odyssey's project here, in the larger conversation. I think it also just shows how important it is to plan things early on, and be as involved and do as much planning as you possibly can, whether it be the goods or services that you're going to offer, the branding, design, layout, look and feel, domain, social medias, etc. I think it's important that people start doing stuff like what he's doing now, and have their plan ready to go now, so that when Earth 2 hits that phase 2 point or hits that phase 3 point, you're ready to go and you're not just now coming up with your ideas. So I think while it's a great idea, it also just underscores the greater thought process that you need to have when approaching these kinds of platforms. So I just wanted to point that out as well.
Yeah, and I also think it's important, the whole first in thing. I mean, being early adopters like we are, being the first to create a site like Odyssey is doing is a big thing, because people are going to trust him more than someone that comes along and tries to replicate what he does.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned we're on this topic, because I literally just read this article. I think it was this morning or yesterday, and it's by let me look it up here, by Paul Brody at CoinDesk. I actually have the tab up here still, and the article was titled "Time is Running Out to Win the Blockchain Race," and it basically just wanted to talk about how there's a certain trend that we see emerge, where market leaders usually tend to emerge and establish themselves within 12 years of something coming out within a given space. And then it just went on to talk about how, the leaders in crypto trading are basically now established about 12 years after Bitcoin's come out onto the market. So I think while it's talking about Bitcoin and a specific time frame, I think it does apply to the greater conversation we're having here, in that, first to doing something is very important, and making sure you have a plan early on is extremely important to being successful inside that space, even more so than just being aware of it.
Hey, did you know that My Name is Human podcast is the first Earth 2 podcast?
I didn't know that.
A shameless self plug within. I mean, it's like plug inception. I'm
just
impressed,
saying.
Hazy. It's. I mean, there is a quote from Jeremy Irons in the movie Margin Call where he says, you in order to make money, you can cheat, you can be the smartest, or you can be first. And I don't know that there's a way we can cheat here. And I like to think that we're pretty smart, Hazy, but we're probably not the smartest. I'm sorry. So. I'll take being first. That'll work.
Yeah.
And to that end, Earth 2 Odyssey and being, the earliest in content creation, or the earliest in your megacity or your guild, and not necessarily being first, but at least being, in that early and trying to learn as much as you can, about the platform early on. I think it'll position folks that are doing these extra things beyond just buying land.
Right.
It'll position people like that really well for, as you said, Combo, phases 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, right. Because of course, I think in a lot of ways we're talking to, this talks to the greater Earth 2 community. I think in some ways we're talking to the people specifically that are planning to hold and really build things on their property with this specific topic. So I think it definitely helps.
Right, precisely. But at the end of the day, we're all driven by land, and from what I understand, Hazy, we got a little giveaway that we've got a winner to announce. Am I right about that?
We do. So we ran the Megacity land plot giveaway through the month of May. It is, or through the month of April. It is now May, so we do get to announce a winner. And we had 11 people buy at least one tile in the Megacity, and that was all you had to do was buy a tile and leave the tile location. So Combo, no pressure here, but pick a number between 1 and 11.
Whew. Yeah, this is tough. We're gonna go with 9.
9. All right, let's see who that is. That would be, wow, she won Meta's giveaway. That's so funny.
Who won it?
Suzanne Richter Madison. So she won Meta's giveaway that I sponsored, and she just won another one.
Wow. It pays to be involved.
Right?
Yeah.
You can only win if you play the game. There you go.
So, Suzanne, I don't know if you listen to this podcast, but I will comment on the article as well. But if you do listen to this podcast, make sure you drop me a line at earth2news@gmail.com, or just leave a comment on the article that you commented on previously, and we'll arrange for the property transfer. So congratulations on that. All right, Combo, we appreciate you joining us again. Was, as always, a good conversation. Anything else you want to add?
No, I just wanted to say thank you guys for inviting me. Huge thank you to everyone out there in the community that supports my channel and watches the videos and just supports all the content creators. So big thank you to all you guys, and thanks again for having me, guys. I can't wait to get back in here and chat with you guys again soon.
Absolutely. And the reason Kangy and I do this podcast is, I mean, it's not just the person advantage. We love the community and we love talking about Earth 2 more than anything. So for us, it's great to talk with people like you who kind of bring a different perspective and kind of enhance the conversation. So we really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks a lot, guys.
All right, Kangy, anything else?
No, I just want to say that, it's been a fun show as usual. Combo, I absolutely can't wait to have you back so that we can find out a little bit more about your concerts, because I definitely plan to be there.
All right.
Well, or whatever your announcement is. I'm sorry. We need some details.
You didn't give away too much, though.
We're fantastic. Okay.
All right. Well, we look ready to rock on with Combo in the future. But for now, this is the My Name is Human Earth2.io podcast brought to you by Earth2News.com. Until next time, Hazy out.